Welcome, boys and girls. The essential question and lesson that we're going to be doing right here is how can you use base 10 blocks when dividing? What we're going to do is we're going to take a few different equations and we're going to divide them using these base 10 blocks. And this first equation that we have here is 195 divided by 13. Now, first thing that we need to do is we need to use our base 10 blocks to represent the 195. So what I'm going to do, since there's 1 in the hundreds place, I need to take 100. And I need to take 9 tens blocks because there's a 9 and 10s blocks to represent the 9. So what I have here is I have my 9 ones, and I need to finish out with my 5 ones to represent the 5 ones from the ones place. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, now what I need to do, now that I have my 195 represented in the base 10 blocks, is I need to see how many groups of 13 I can make with all these base 10 blocks. However many groups of 13 I'm able to make with these 195 from these base 10 blocks will be my quotient. Now let's start with what I have here, as I have a hundreds block. And what I have with my hundreds blocks is I have 10 groups of 10. I have 10 columns, and I have 10 in each column. So what I'm left here with is I have 10 groups of 10. But I don't want to make groups of 10. What I want to do is I want to make groups of 13. So if I take these groups of 10, and I take 3 tens blocks and put them directly underneath my hundreds blocks, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be making 10 groups of 13. Let me show you how I mean. Right here we have our one group of 13. Here's 10 more, and then 11, 12, 13. That's another group of 13. I have another group of 13 here. I have 10 columns, so what I've created was I've created 10 groups of 13. Now, I've created these 10 groups of 13 right here, but I also need to create more groups of 13 because I have more of these base 10 blocks here. So I look at what I have, and I have to ask myself if I could make any groups of 13 with these base 10 blocks that I have. Well, if I take one of those 10s blocks that I have, and 3 of these 1s blocks, I could create another group of 13. So far I have 10 groups of 13 here, and I have another group of 13 here, which gives me 11 groups. Now, if I try to make another group of 13 with the blocks that I have, I'm not going to be able to do that because I'll have the 10s blocks, but what I have here is I don't have enough 1s. So what I need to do is I need to regroup one of these 10s. I need to take one of these 10s, give it back, and I need to replace it with 10 1s. So now that I've replaced the 10s block with 10 1s, what I need to do is I need to figure out if I can make more groups of this 13. Alright, I will take the 1s block and add it on to my other group of 12 to make a group of 13. I'll take this 10s block that I have here, and I will make another group of 13 with 3 more 1s. I could take the 4th 10s block that I have left over and the 3 1s blocks here to make another group of 13, and finally I could finish this off with my last 10s block and my last 3 1s block, to make another group of 13. Okay, now what I'm left with here is I'm left with my 10 groups of 13 from my hundreds blocks and my 3 tens blocks. And what I also created with my leftover 10s and 1s blocks was I created 5 more groups of 13. So in all, what I've created was I've created 15 groups of 13. I was able to take the 195 with my base 10 blocks, and I was able to make 15 groups of 13. Therefore, the quotient 195 divided by 13 is going to be 15. Alright, let's take a look at another one of these problems here. We have the example 264 divided by 12. So what I need to do is I need to take our 200s blocks to represent 200, and I need to take 6 tens blocks, and I need to take 4 ones blocks. And what I need to do with these blocks is I need to make groups of 12. Now, however many groups of 12 I'm able to make with my 264 is going to give me the quotient to 264 divided by 12. So I'm going to first start by using one of my hundreds blocks and some of my 10 blocks to make a group of 12. Because remember from my last example, what I have here with the hundreds blocks is I have 10 groups of 10. But I don't want a group of 10, I want to make a group of 12. So what I'll do is I'll take one of my tens blocks, slide it right underneath my hundreds blocks, and now what I have here is I actually have 10 groups of 11. But I need to make my 10 groups of 12, so I'm going to take one more of my tens blocks and put it right underneath here, and now I have myself 10 groups of 12. Here's 10, here's 11, and here's 12, and I have 10 of these columns that are like that. So in this part I have 10 groups of 12. Now I have to see what I have left. Alright, now what I could do at this point is I could take my other group here, my other tens block here, place it underneath this hundreds block, take my other tens block and place it right underneath here, and now what I've created is I've created another group of 12. I created 10 more 12s. Okay, so now I have 10 groups of 12 here, and I have 10 groups of 12 here. So in total so far I have 20 groups of 12, because in each one of these columns there are 12 blocks. Now what I'm left with here is 2 tens blocks, and I'm left with 4 ones blocks. And you need to ask yourself, can I make a group of 12 with what I have left? Do I need to regroup anything? For this example, I don't have to regroup anything, because what I could do is I take that one tens block that's left over, make another group of 12, take this tens block here that's left over, make a final group of 12, and what I need to do is I need to determine how many groups of 12 I was able to make. From the hundreds blocks, and the 2 tens blocks, and this hundreds blocks, and this 2 tens blocks, what I was able to do, I was able to make 20 groups of 12. With my 2 tens blocks and my 4 ones blocks left over, I was able to make 2 more groups of 12. So in total, what I've created was 22 groups of 12. Therefore, the answer to 264 divided by 12 would be 22, because I've created 22 groups of 12. Alright, here's one more example that we're going to do before I have you try one on your own. I have 168, and I need to make groups of 14. So I'm first going to represent 168 with my base 10 blocks, and I'm going to show 100, I'm going to show 6 tens, and I'm going to show 8 ones. Now what you do is you need to figure out if you can make a group of 15 based on the blocks that you have here. And we know from our hundreds blocks that we have 10 groups of 10. But I know I don't need to make groups of 10, I need to make groups of 14. So if I put one tens block underneath my hundreds block, I've created groups of 11. Here's 10, and here's 11. 10 and 11. I've created 10 groups of 11. Now, what I would have to do is I would have to add 3 more of these 10 blocks to make a group of 14, because now I have groups of 12. I have 10 groups of 12. If I put this underneath my tens block here, is I have 10 groups of 13. And now, if I place this tens block underneath here, I've now created groups of 14. I have 10 groups of 14. Now, with what I'm left over here, I need to figure out if I can make more groups of 14. I have a tens block here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 ones that I could place with that tens block to create a group of 14. And I also have one more tens block, and I have 4 more ones. With that one tens block and that 4 ones, I'm able to create one final group of 14. So what did I do was, I took my hundreds block and my 4 tens block, and I created 10 groups of 14. Again, here is my 10 groups of 14. I have one group of 14 there, another group of 14 there, and so on until I got to my end. Because there's 10 columns, I made 10 groups of 14. What I've done here is I've created 2 more groups of 14. Here's another group of 14, here's another group of 14. So in total, I've created 12 groups of 14. Therefore, my quotient to 168 divided by 14 is 12. Now I'm going to give you one for you to try it on your own. Press the pause button when you're ready, and once you have solved this next problem, you can press the play button and see if you solved it correctly. Okay, so here's your example, 180 divided by 15. Go ahead and press the pause button, and once you've solved the problem, see if you've created the correct amount of groups of 15 from the 180s. So now when you started this out, you should have had 100s blocks and 8 ones. And with the 100s blocks and 8 ones, you wanted to find out how many groups of 15 you can make with these this hundreds block and these ones. Well, right in here, if I put my tens block underneath my hundreds blocks, I've created groups of 11. I've created 10 groups of 11. Now, what I need to do is I need to place 4 more of these tens blocks underneath my hundreds blocks to create a group of 15. So that's 10 groups of 13. I now have 10 groups of 14. And if I put 1 more of these hundreds blocks underneath here, I have a group of 15. I have 10 groups of 15. Here's the 1 group, the 2 groups, the 3 groups, and so on. I now have 10 groups of 15. And what I'm left with here is I have 3 tens blocks. I cannot make a group of 15 with 3 tens blocks. So what I need to do is I need to regroup one of these tens blocks. I'm going to take this tens block and I'm going to trade it in for the 10 ones. So now that I traded in that one tens block, tens block for 10 ones, I'm going to try and make another group of 15. And what I see here is that with the tens block that I had, I can create one group of 15. And now I'm left with one tens block left along with 5 more ones, which I know I could create one final group of 15. Now, in total, what I did was I created 10 groups of 15 here, 2 groups of 15 with my tens blocks and 1 block that were left over. So if I take my 10 groups plus the 2 groups of 15 that I created 12 total groups of 15. Therefore, 180 divided into 15 divided by 15 would give me 12 groups of those 15.